I gotta get like a really calming sound to my voice, like Bob Ross, the king of painting with James. Today we're going to do a little painting. We're going to start out by doing a little dry brushing with this Militarum green, which is, I think, just about dead. Let me see. Is there anything in there? Can I get any paint on this? It feels dry, so this will just have to get thrown away. And I'll just have to find another color that's close to it. Let's see. We've got German dark green. No, that's not going to work out for me. If it was German reflective green, that might have been good, but not German dark green. Let me open up the chat. Hey, Katie Hall. Good morning, son. Well, Madre, good morning to you. I hope you are having a wonderful morning. I've been up since like 4 a.m. I'm on this weird new schedule where I'm like dead ass asleep by 7 and then up before the sun even comes up. It's been like that for like the last week. I'm getting on that old man schedule, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, Tracy and I eat dinner and then like hour later I'm knocked out. But how are you doing? How's the weather? Have you read any good books lately? That's a question I'm interested in knowing. Ironcaster, good morning to you, sir. I hope you are doing well. I am currently mixing some paint to do a highlight on a guy in a ghillie suit. And also asking my mom a bunch of questions, but I don't know if she stuck around long enough to answer them or not. But yes, that's the lady that's responsible for all of my nerdity. That's the one that bought me my first box set of D&D, bought me my first D&D books, introduced me to Tolkien when I was young. So if it weren't for my mom, I don't know, I would have been it's hot and you are good. Yeah, okay. If it weren't for my mom, who knows? I would have grown up to be your average redneck. So today we were looking at Florida, again, talking about the alligator Alcatraz that they're building. And they asked the guy, so what kind of animals do you got to deal with? And of course, he said alligators, but then he mentioned the much more aggressive American crocodile. Here he is. I don't know how well you'll see him because he's still wet, but this is a Russian sniper in full suit with a Val. And the Val, of course, is their 9mm short range SBR that fires subsonic rounds. So, I mean, if you sneak up on somebody with one of those things, within 100 yards, you can take people out and they will never know where it's coming from. So, I personally wish I could get one. There is an American company that makes them, but every time I look at their webpage, they are sold out. So, plus, I mean, the ammo is weird. It's 9mm by 39. So, it's weird ammo. Working the day away to be able to buy the new one-page rules campaign mission set. I love one-page rules, and I've never bought anything from them. And I don't know why. Maybe I'm a backer or something, but talk to you later. Love you. Well, I love you too, Mom. You know that. Um, for whatever reason, they're constantly giving me free STLs on my mini factory. I don't know if I backed them and forgot about it or whatever. Like, I logged on last night and there was like, I kid you not, like 7 STLs I know I didn't buy from War Games Atlantic and One Page Rules. They're constantly giving me free STLs that I can print out. So, of course, that means I'm going to love that company because, I mean, if it's free, it's for me, right? If they're going to give me free STLs, I'll tell you what War Games Atlantic is doing that's super interesting is they're putting out accessory parts as STLs. So like War Games Atlantic sells this Dark Age Irish warrior set, right? Yeah, maybe I don't know if I'm their the only person I think I'm a Patreon to is Holy Diver. I'm pretty sure I'm his Patreon. But maybe I am. But anyway, War Games Atlantic put out an STL yesterday. And if you print the pieces out from the STL, which are just like some arms and some heads and stuff, you can combine it with their plastic Dark Age people kit, you know, their Dark Age Warriors kit or something to make them all zombies. So it's basically they just put out a bunch of crazy heads and stuff of zombies. And if you have the plastic kit, you just super glue the zombie parts on, and there you are. Now you got zombies. They did the same thing very recently with the lizard men they sell for like Space Vietnam or whatever. They put out like an STL set where there was like French style freaking, you know, cappy hats and muskets. There was pavases with crossbows. I mean, it was like they had everything from like fantasy all the way up to modern weapon options that could go with that kit and was specifically designed to fit those minis, which I have a bunch of and I absolutely appreciate and enjoy. The Pulp Zombie box. Yeah, I mean, War Games Atlantic years and years ago, they were like the cheap option, but no one ever thought they were the good option. You know, it was like, you know, you buy War Games Atlantic because they're cheap, readily available, whatever. But recently, man, it's been totally different. They've been putting out some incredibly good products. I mean, if you're a war gamer or a hobbyist, modeler, etc. Now I'm going to paint I forget the name of this, and it'll be super easy to paint, but it's basically a mutant plant that kind of looks like a lizard. And they basically just lay low and look like plants until stuff gets close enough to them for them to jump out and attack it. So think of it like it operates basically like an alligator or something, you know. It's pretty much in old school Traveler, it would be defined as a pouncer. Because in old school Traveler, they defined every animal by how it behaves. So you know you would have pouncers, grazers, chasers, etc. Yeah, I was listening this morning though to them talking about the alligator Alcatraz place. They asked the dude to name all the animals that are there. And like I said, of course, he named alligators and crocodiles. And they're like, well, how big can an alligator get? And he's like, well, there have been reports of alligators getting as big as 20 feet. However, most people don't believe that. And they say they tap out about at 16. And then there's crocodiles, which get as big or bigger than alligators. And they are extremely aggressive compared to the American alligator, which is not to say an American alligator won't eat you if he's hungry and he's big, because, they generally hunt within their size range, right? But crocodiles, I mean, they are one of the few animals on Earth that is considered a natural man eater. Like, and what that means is most animals do not view humans as food, but they will eat us if it's if like we're all that's around, right? Like if you run into a pack of starving wolves, normally those wolves would never attack and eat a human, right? But if they're hungry enough, well, you're on the menu. That's just how it is. Um, Same with bears or anything else, right? But a crocodile will go out of its way to get a human. They actively will hunt a human. And yeah, they're one of very polar bears, the other one that I can remember reading about that are active manhunters. So I put a coat of green on him and he'll get a green wash and then a highlight so that he looks more like a bush. And then I'll do his base probably with a green grassy flock, but I'll make sure to put a couple bushes around him. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the other thing they mentioned though, which I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that. And this is what I keep trying to get to, but get distracted. Bull sharks. Oh yeah, that's right. Bull sharks. Apparently, there's a lot of bull sharks in the Everglades. They just decide to move on in, hang out, because a bull shark, the largest North American alligator, 19 feet. Oh my God. That's a dinosaur for sure. Temple of Metamorphosis. But so let's say you escape from the prison and you're swimming from one cypress stand to the next, which is basically islands made up of the cypress trees. There's literally a chance you could get hit by a 15-foot bull shark. And then they're talking about the pythons that are down there. They estimate there's over 300,000 of them, and they top out at 300 pounds, 20 plus feet. And I was going to say apparently, I don't know why I add extra words because I mean it's stupid, but they know for a fact that these big pythons will eat humans because they have in the Philippines. Like there are actual documented cases of these particular snakes eating people in the Philippines. So, I mean, if you put me in that prison, I'll tell you what, I'm not trying to get away. I'm just going to be like, okay, because I mean, I can't think of which would be worse. Would it be worse to be grabbed by an alligator or crocodile, get a chunk bit out of you by a bull shark, get taken out by a python? That'd actually be the best way to go because it'd just crush the air out of you and you pass out, and that'd be the end of that. Maybe get bit by a tribe of herpes monkeys and then slowly die from spinal meningitis. And that's that's not even counting the mammals that live down there. Panthers and shit like that live in that region. Yeah. Well, that's the reason we have so many crazy animals in Florida is when Charlie came through and wrecked Miami. And what was that town just north of Miami? There were a shit ton of pet stores down there with exotic pets, ball pythons and reticulated pythons and, of course, iguanas and all that shit. Well, those pet shops all got blown down, but the animals didn't die. They just ran and hid. And now, we've talked about this before, they actually pay people to go on to golf courses and shit and kill um, um, iguanas. Because iguanas, I didn't know this about iguanas, but they like to burrow. Yeah, you can't overlook those mosquitoes. They will give you any number of diseases. And the other thing to think about too that you bring up, Ironcaster, is you're going through this swamp. You ain't got any clean water, right? You're just chucking your ass through the swamp trying to get away, doing your thing. And you get thirsty and you think, I'll just drink a couple handfuls of this delicious swamp water here. Next thing you know, you've got Giardia, Legionnaire's disease. I mean, the mosquitoes are eating you alive. You've got freaking West Nile virus and malaria. So, I mean, yeah, this is truly like, maybe we should do what the Corino Emperor did and just put them there and let them have at it. And like every 10 years go, and the strongest survivors that are still alive there, right? Psycho hypnotize them and put them into like a military force like the Sardaukar, because they'd be the baddest mother, if they survived all of that stuff, they'd have to be some bad dudes, right? So we start making our own Sardaukar forces. Actually rename it from Alligator Alley to like friggin' what's it? Something Secundus. Solaris Secundus or something like that. I mean, of course, I'm joking, kinda. Sorta. Not really. That would be funny. Freaking. Man, I got so much to paint, but luckily a lot of stuff I had to paint is super easy. Like these Sardaukar forces. I mean, I just had to do the shade. And if I really want to, I might take some white paint to do the, let's see. You can see it's got its face mask, but otherwise it's wearing the white armor. There is, however, a rebreather right here that I need to do in silver. But otherwise, that's pretty much how easy they are to paint, because they're just white. And then these guys, I don't know what I'll do to make them look. They do got some extra parts I need to paint to make them look, a little more detailed. These are Spacers Guild guys. Now, I seem to remember something about in the book they would cover their robes or something with mathematical equations and stuff. Maga Secundus, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's cost savings for everyone because, I mean, if you put people there, which apparently they put up the big tents, they keep them at 60 degrees or so. So it's not like the people are going to be abused or whatever. They're going to be there. They're going to get food. They're going to get plenty of nice, clean water. They're going to be hanging out in the AC. But if they choose for some reason to jump a fence and see if they can make it on their own, well, good luck to them, I guess, because, it's probably not going to be a good idea. But right now, see, you saw me put the base coat on the lizard bush, which has a name, and I'm getting ready to look it up because it's aggravating me. Right now, I'm painting a spider white so that I can use quick paint on it. So I'm doing basically the zenithal. So let me grab my copy of second edition Gamma World here. My box set. I've got third edition in there too, and first edition. I keep all three editions, but I didn't like third very much at all. And the only problem with second is there's no advancement tables, but it's easy enough to just, create them for yourself. Whether you can say every so many adventures, the players get some bonus or other. What I did, and I have a whole video where I talk about it, is I basically kind of ripped off how Lion and Dragon did it. So I took like the fighter, the thief. I think just the fighter and the thief, maybe. Not sure. I took a couple that made sense. And then I altered, like when it said +1 to saving throw, I put down +1 versus radiation or poison or whatever, right? So whenever they have to make a physical or a con check versus poison, they get a bonus. And every time the characters earn X amount of points, they can either choose one thing they want or roll two things random. I keep putting off me too. I'm the king of the procrastinators. These things are called Kailins, lizard bushes. They're not intelligent. They have an attraction odor, so if you smell them, you want to find them. They generate electricity, so like an electric eel, they will shock the hell out of you. And their eyes emit radiation. Says here that it likes to find carrion and twine its roots into the carrion and absorb sustenance. Although they usually eat only carrion, they are capable of hunting live prey if the need arises. So many, like, I guarantee you, like, there are so many D&D miniatures that you might have that absolutely you could use for this. Like, what are they called? I love them. I've used them more than the deer-headed eagles with the antlers that give off a human shadow. Those things would fit right in Shadowrun. And then, of course, you've got your sleeths, the seer lizards. They're just lizard men. You've got giant rats. Yep, okay. Giant rats, no problem. The sep or land shark, really, it's just a belay or a ballet. So not a big deal. Podogs, it's a giant dog that some people like to ride on. If you have tabaxi miniatures, then those would be your jaggets. Hoops, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to have some humanoid rabbits wearing chainmail. Paratons, yeah, I like the paratons. The hawkoids are just Aarakocra. And then, of course, you've got giant spiders, Attercops. Mutation, electrical generation, not good. Flying Rippers, I've got a bunch of those. Karens, also known as the Dark Emperors. What I did is, since I couldn't find anything that looked enough like a Karen, in my opinion, I printed out some Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, and those become my Karens. Dabbers, so you just need humanoid, very smallish raccoons, which you can get. Blashes, it's just a moth. I mean, come on. So yeah, it's like I'm really happy to say that most of the creatures that you might need to represent mutants, um, you can find in your collection of D&D miniatures. But so that's cool. That's cool. If you even want to use miniatures, and there's no reason to do it if you don't want to. The main reason I would use miniatures in Gamma World is I like to use miniatures in any game that involves firearms, because when you have a game that involves firearms and hand grenades, it becomes very important to know exactly where people are when somebody chucks a grenade. You know what I mean? Or when somebody's trying to get line of sight on somebody else with an assault rifle. So, yeah. Now, the other game the players will have an option to play. There's 3 games that are going to be on the option list if and when we switch games. Gamma World, Dune, or Star Frontiers. And the players have already got characters made for all 3 games. So, mainly thanks to me, because your boy loves making characters. That might be a weird flex, but I am one of those guys that actually enjoys making characters, putting down their little backgrounds and all the, eccentricities and, why they're the way they are and blah, 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 rolling those attributes and hopefully getting good stuff. But even if you don't, I mean, life is unfair sometimes. To quote Dr. Evil, right? So, and Dune, the first time I read through the game, I was like, this game is way too simple. You've got basically 5 skills and your beliefs, and you combine them, and that's a target number you got to roll under, right? And I'm like, that is way too simple, right? Except every time every skill you have focuses, and every belief has focuses, and the focuses are the skills. So if you put all of your points into power, and then you decide to focus on swordsmanship, then that's the skill, swordsmanship, under the power thing. So, yeah. Found a second spider. So, since I already had a little paint out, come on now, I will paint the second spider too. I mean, it's always good to have some spiders, right? I mean, spiders are one of those weird animals that so many people seem to be like terrified of, phobic of, arachnophobia or whatever. And I can happily say I've never been one of those people. There's DM Bubba. What up, homie?
Surviving the day, baby.
Yeah.
Surviving the day.
Yep. I have never been arachnophobic at all. As a matter of fact, I've always kind of been obsessed with spiders. Not to the point that I ever wanted to keep them as pets, but I used to love to go out on the ranch and like find those jumping spiders and just watch them.
My uncle was terrified of them.
I don't know why anyone would be, because
he developed his phobia in Vietnam.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, if you lived in a place where they had actual giant spiders.
Yeah. He'd see a spider and he'd jump. And his nickname was Big John. I'm the smallest man on that side of the family, I'll be honest. They're all huge. I'm 5'8", and I'm the runt of the entire clan.
I am 6 foot, and that's bringing it back because my grandfather and all of his brothers were like 6.5 feet tall.
Yeah, that's my grandpa. He was stooped over. He was so tall, he's stooped over from stooping all his life.
My grandpa
That was
was,
6'5".
well, he did a lot of coal mining, but then he decided to be a bootlegger. And then after that, he went holy roller. And
That was my uncle.
yeah, actually, you can look him up. Morris McKee and the Hallelujahs. He's got albums.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My great uncle was a bootlegger, Uncle Harv, and he was a teetotaler later in life, but earlier in his younger years, he was a bootlegger.
Yeah, that's the same thing
Classic.
with my grandpa on the McKee side. He was a hellion when he was young, and then he hit a certain age and he got religion, you know what I mean? And become a teetotaler.
You wise up or you die.
Well, I mean, this was like 30 years before he died. So it wasn't like he, was like, oh, shit.
Well, when you live that life and you get to a certain age, you either have your come to Jesus or you keep going down that path. You end up prison. You end up dead.
That's what happened to my other grandpa. He ended up in the Kentucky State Pen for 15 years.
Castle or the other one?
Huh?
Castle on the river?
I don't know. They called it the bullpen.
Bullpen?
Yeah, it was the federal penitentiary in Kentucky.
Oh, it's a federal one. That's a state one. I was talking about the maximum security for Kentucky is the they call it the Castle on the Cumberland.
Nah, he went to the federal one because he was an accessory to a first-degree murder.
Yeah,
And,
I'll do it.
So he caught a 15-year bid on that. And that was when he was like 20 years old. So when he met my grandmother, he was 30, because he'd been in prison throughout his whole 20s. But, I mean, but that side of the family, there's a tradition of going to prison or dying young.
I got that. I got kin like that too.
Yeah, that whole side of the
Have
family.
you ever heard that one called the Castle on the Cumberland? It's the Kentucky Penitentiary, and it's one of those buildings you look at and you can just feel the misery coming out the damn thing.
Yeah, we've got something like that here in Orlando up near Maitland called 33rd Street. And it's not even a prison, it's a jail. But it's so bad that if you ever go there, you will wish you were in prison.
Yeah. I got something in my eye.
Because they use it for overflow for federal penitentiary places. So you might be in there for like fist fighting at Pleasure Island at Disney, and you're sharing a cell with a dude that's got like 3 bodies on him. You know what I mean?
A contract killer.
And you're just sitting there like, okay. Plus, it was, when I went, super racist.
Yeah, that happened. You either your uniform impressions your skin usually.
Yeah.
So
like there were like when the Mills came, there was like a table where all the black guys sat, a table where all the white guys sat. The Mexicans had their table. Well, North or South Mexican. It depended. They were different.
Yeah.
And that was just how it was. I mean, you didn't break the rules. And like each group kind of had an old dude who was like you didn't do anything without the old dude saying you could. And they explain it to you pretty well. It's actually pretty like sitting on the outside. It's pretty interesting how organized the whole thing is.
Hierarchy arise from chaos, and people who end up in prison are chaotic individuals. And when all that chaos hits there has to be a hierarchy.
It's like
that's just natural order right there, man.
It's like you get in, and the first day you're in, you've got like 2 intakes. You've got the intake from the guards telling you what's what, and then as soon as they put you in population, somebody pulls you aside, and then you get the intake from the old white dude that tells you what's what, And it's like, okay, I mean, old white dude for me because I was a white dude, but you know.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, they built a new prison down in Paintsville around Prestonsburg, and it's a big maximum security federal. You have to go through a tunnel to get to it, and they like to get all the East Coast people and dump them in there. I think to get them off the
right.
coast. It's designed pretty interesting inside. Not super max, but close.
Right. Oh man, just painting these sci-fi figures, having a great time. You know what my problem is? I mean, I've got many, but one of them is if I find a miniature that's super cool looking, I immediately want to play a game that that miniature would be in.
Yeah, some ADD issues,
So
but
it's an issue because
Squirrel.
we're playing D&D and I'm over here painting generic House Warriors and Sardaukar and Spacers Guild guys. So of course my imagination is in the Dune universe. It's not in Greyhawk.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting ready to make Wretched Space the red edition. So they're making the new rules version of their space, and they were kicking around ideas for the name of it.
Nice.
But
I've heard nothing but
they're
good stuff about the Wretched, all of it.
Yeah, the red system goes where it's levelless. It's pure skill based system, but your skills cap at like 5, so it's all synergy. I mean,
I like skill based.
I just had little. I got some fancy guys.
When it comes to sci-fi stuff, I am definitely a huge fan of skill base.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what's his name? Kevin, the guy that did Worlds Without Number. I think he did a great job of kind of combining class and skill in, Worlds Without Number. But
I felt the same way about Wretched, and they abandoned the entire class system, redoing everything.
yeah, his deal is he also has like the random skills you start with, and then you also get to pick like traits, and the traits are like, I don't want to say they're like feats, but maybe kind of. So if you're playing a warrior, you can pick like a trait where you're good at dual wielding or whatever, and every trait has multiple levels. Kevin Crawford, that's his name.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing he does that's really weird is your character has skill levels and whatever, but to instead of rolling a die 20 to try to roll past the target number, you roll 2 dice 6 when you do a skill check. And to me, that's like, I don't know. I don't know why I think it's odd because it's basically how Traveler does it. But so you've got like the game, the combat, everything like that is basically BX D&D, but then the skill checks are all Traveler, and then when you gain a level, you get, every class gets just die 6 hit points, and you might get like another skill or be able to advance one of your talents, and they've only got, in Stars Without Numbers, there's only, I think, 3 classes.
With red now, your hit points, your health is your toughness. That's it.
That is kind of, and you probably know this, very kind of how it is in Gamma World. Except in Gamma World, depending on what you are,
you could have a crazy
it's your con times die 6 or die 8.
Yeah.
But since
Yeah, they alter it for certain genres, like for the red exploitation, where it's based on '70s exploitation films. Your hit points get busted. Your health gets boosted because you're doing all kinds of crazy shit and getting shot up all the time.
Yeah. So basically, kind of
In regular red in space, when the guns come out, man, people will start dropping.
like Call of Cthulhu, because you've
Yeah.
got normal Call of Cthulhu and you've got Pulp Cthulhu, and Pulp Cthulhu just cranks your character's ability to survive up. That's all it does.
Yeah.
It just says, "Hey, we're gonna make it where your character doesn't drop dead the first time, something happens." And
I like it lethality though. I like the lethality that if you're in a fist fight or you're taking a knife to each other, it can be like a regular combat. But the second someone pulls a gun out, it's like reality. Someone's getting smoked. I like that.
well, in Die 20 Modern, they had, you would get hit points because it was basically third edition. But
Yeah.
they had a rule where if somebody shot you with a gun and did equal or more damage than your Constitution score, you had to make a death save or die.
Yeah, but your save went up as you. It was, but it had the third edition problem where numberitis, the stacking and everything. You weren't going to fail a fucking saving throw after third level.
Yeah, well,
unless you rolled one,
yeah,
5%.
You're dead.
5%.
A character's
I mean, if
got
it's
an average con, I mean, it's not that hard for somebody with a gun to roll enough damage to make you make that death check.
That's true. They have a lot of them. They have
like a double barrel.
Okay, everything else, the damage stacks up just like all your bonus stuff. Ah, God, my eye.
Well, if they burst fire you with an M16 and you roll all that damage, and if they roll good, I mean, they could be like, I did 17 damage, and you're like, oh, I got 14 con. Roll that die 20, hope one or two don't pop up, because if it does.
Yeah.
So I originally hated the game because the first person I played the game with didn't use that rule. And I thought it was so stupid. You had these guys running around with like 50 hit points getting shot, and nothing was happening. And I was like, whatever, right? But then I bought the actual game for myself and I read the book and I was like, but that guy said he did it on purpose that way because he didn't want anybody's characters to just die. And I'm like, if somebody freaking unloads an AK-74 at you at close range, I mean, there should be a chance that you're dead. I mean, that's a situation that you hope you don't get into because it equals dead. But
dude, the pit traps I use in my games are like 5 and 6 on a D6. It's a 300-foot drop, buddy. Eat it.
I think Vic was on here and he was talking about he had a pit trap in a dungeon where somebody fell down it and they starved to death while they were falling.
Yeah. Oh, the bottomless pit.
They're just falling so long they ended up dying of dehydration or some shit.
Yeah, it's a 1 and 8 in barrel maze. 1 and 8's a bottomless pit. High fails are 5 and 6 on a D6. It's a 300-foot drop. And I've made mine to where I got specials, and depending on the nature of the dungeon, if I'm going to put a bottomless pit or something weird in. But some of my specials are like those reverse gravity traps from Undermountain. They're so funny. Yeah, they go through the ceiling. The pit trap's in the ceiling. So they go through the ceiling, it flips open, and then the springs put it shut, and the dude's like 30 feet up, pinned against the wall.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that too. I have a special fondness in my heart for pit traps since the very first character I ever made for D&D died in a pit trap.
Yeah. Do you make them easy to detect or hard to detect?
I make it where it depends if the players are looking for it, what they're doing, and also race matters. Because like dwarves and gnomes automatically they get their 1 in 6 chance or whatever. 2 and
2 and
6.
6.
Okay, thank you. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like elves might get a shot if they're walking at exploration speed, so 10 feet per minute, and they're actually
Right.
checking everything. Then yeah, I'll let them roll that dice 6. But if they're just running willy nilly down a dungeon, yeah, they're probably not going to.
I had that just happen in my last game. We talked about in the last video I made. They detected the pit trap. No, they didn't detect the trap. They stopped because they saw the room, and they saw shadowy figures. So they tried to taunt the creatures down the hall, and they heard shuffling, and then the little imp that's in charge of them is taunting them, but doesn't let the zombies pursue. So they're like, hell, we just charge in the room. I'm like, all right, first guy's in front. You fall in the pit trap. I got my potion of feather fall. Well, the other one doesn't, so she falls to her death. You can roll 30d6 for that second level cleric if you want.
Here's the thing. Like, I've got a character in my group. He's a level 7 acrobat. If he falls down, he has a ring of feather fall. But if he falls down a bottomless pit, it's not going to matter.
You can climb back up.
I mean, I guess he can try to grab a wall. And if I want to be a dick, I'll be like, the walls are way too smooth, man. Like, these walls are polished. And so you can try it, but, there's a penalty because he does have the climb wall ability. He is technically a thief. But
yeah, you gotta get closer to the wall. Is the only thing. You gotta stop your descent.
Yeah, can he reach any part of the wall? But then he could always pull out his staff and push one side to the other.
Pull out, carry his staff in his pocket. Is that a staff in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
He literally has a staff that shrinks.
Oh, he got the Babylon, not Babylon 5, but the Andromeda staff.
Or
I like those.
The D&D cartoon staff.
Oh yeah, the glowing.
Yeah, well, glow.
Yeah, there's a weapon. Yeah, there's a couple unique items in this module I'm going to let the guys run or go through. I mean, and whenever you fire arrows through it, it leaves a light, so it turns all your arrows into tracers that last and the light trace lasts for 1 round. Which I thought that's kind of cool, unless you're trying not to be seen from the darkness.
In which case, it's like everybody and their grandpa sees you now because you're chucking, Yeah, they were in High Forest, I think, up in Bissell, and they actually met the dungeon master and the kids. But the kids are all grown up, and I have the miniatures of them all grown up. So, like, Bobby the Barbarian is like this hulking, huge freaking dude with a big blonde beard, but he's still got his club and his freaking hat, like in the cartoon. And Eric's got like a goatee, and he's got a sword. Because originally,
I picked the sword up after all these years.
And they didn't have to, but they agreed to do a thing for the dungeon master. And right now they're kind of, again, and I know this is all kind of goofy, campy shit, but their arch nemesis currently is the female vampire from the Lost to Massage Camp, because they turned her and she ran off. She didn't die, though. Yeah. She just ran off. And then they grabbed all the loot and ran, right? So she's still out there, And also, they encountered and cut a deal with Kellic.
Yeah, I always like running Kellic as a bad guy.
So they're all like, Archmage, evil, hangs out with Warduke. Warduke wants to kill him, but hasn't for whatever reason, so
it's handy having a wizard, bro. It's handy having a wizard, bro, especially when he's got packs of wards.
Right. It's like Warduke would really like to be the boss of the group, but he knows he don't want to take out Kelly, Level 9 fighter with flaming sword versus like level 11 wizard. That's not a good matchup. Even
Yeah.
though
I think
we're
I've
trying to get what's her name, the female sorceress, to join his side. So, and that's all in the lore, which I use in my game too. Like how, because there's that group. There's like five of them. There's like the half orc assassin. There's a cleric.
Mhm.
There's a sorceress, Kellic the wizard, and Warduke. And
Right.
there's a lot of politics that goes on between all of them.
Yeah, I always consider that the proto slave lord group.
Right, right. So I like working Warduke in anytime I can, just because.
Dude, did you see the stats they put in for 3E for the Horned Lords? It was kind of over the top. Magazine, they made him like a 20th level fighter or something. His items are all like 3 artifacts or something stupid. They bumped that helm up to be something more than what it was.
Yeah, that's something.
I don't remember if they ever did that to Kellic though. I think Warduke is the only one that got the love in like later editions as a drop in for Dragon Magazine.
In one of these cabinets, I have the Warduke that's like this tall, and it's got like the detachable hands and
Yeah, the
all
big
the
action
different
figure.
accoutrements. It's still in the box, but
Of course.
when I saw it was for sale, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I keep wanting to get me a Warduke t-shirt. Actually, I think I'll order me one in a minute.
Right? I mean, I don't know what it is, but he was just a cool character,
He's cool looking. The bad guys look cool. And you look at Strongheart and go, Strongheart looks kind of dorky.
Right? With his freaking plate mail and his
Dude, we had a +1 helm in my game come up in Barrel Maze, and it was described as winged, and the Paladin got it. They gave it to the Paladin. I said, now you look like Strongheart, and he was so excited. He's like, that kid sucks.
That's cool though. I mean, that he was so happy about it. I mean, what happened with my group is well, the one guy wanted the Ring of Feather Falling, and Kellic told him he had one, which he did, and Kellic wanted the Manual of Gainful Intelligence or whatever.
Hmm?
So they went on a quest to get the thing, but then they're in Kellic's setting room in his tower, eating lemon cake and drinking tea and negotiating over, trading this shit, while Warduke's just standing up against a wall, and they can't tell what he's thinking because he's got the helmet on with the glowing red eyes. And I told him that he's giving off a very Michael Myers vibes, like he's just standing there, And so they cut the deal, and they traded the manual for a couple of items they wanted, and then they hauled ass out of town.
Yeah.
And
did you give me the Fortress of Thorns?
Like, huh?
Did you give him his Fortress of Thorns that teleports, that moves from the cartoon?
He was actually, no, he has that. Yeah. But he actually has a tower in High Forest.
Okay.
Which is because he does a lot of his adventuring in the Northwest.
Yeah.
So, but he can get around. However, the characters have fled, ASAP back down to Sheldamar Valley. So they're currently in, I think, at Neodra, which is Keeland.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
And they're heading towards the Principality of Ulic.
Yeah. I'm using the generic.
The person, the NPC they hired to help them out with their last adventure has split off from them, and she's heading to the county of Ulic to build a tower and start a mage guild, because she's hit that level where
it's time.
She's going to do that. And they're all like, well, maybe we'll visit her, Like, yeah, maybe. I mean, if you're in the neighborhood.
Yeah, put down roots so you can start making the magic items.
Yeah. And that was what she told them. Like, she agreed to go on the adventure with them and she said she didn't need any gold, but she wanted any scrolls and stuff. And the my game group, even though there's 8 of them, there's not a single wizard or mage.
Yeah, it's
So
rough.
they're like, okay, none of us are ever going to use mage scrolls, you know. So
That's the sweet spot to get into a group where everybody's playing melees and you're the only wizard, so you just get it funneled into your lap.
right. So they're all like, well, because we got 2 clerics. We've got the dwarf cleric of Moradin and then the human cleric of Heronius. And so yeah, they gave her all the scrolls, and they asked her why she wanted all these scrolls for these low powered spells and this and that. And basically it was for teaching her students, you know. And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, so it all made sense. Everything worked out. Everybody was happy.
I think if scrolls on a wizard should be second nature, because you can it expands your ability in the dungeon and gives you more utility. You want all them lame ass spells on your scrolls, you know, like read magic. People go, why read magic? Because it turns every scroll we find in the dungeon into a usable item while we're in the dungeon and not down the road.
Yeah, like Tensor's floating disc. That is a perfect spell to be on a scroll.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it doesn't take away
from magic. Yeah, knock, dispel magic and stuff like that.
Yeah. But they did, because it was in the dungeon, they didn't end up finding a wand of magic missiles with 100 charges. And every time you use it, you can use up to 5 charges.
5?
That's how many magic missiles it will shoot. So
that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's a pretty good item, I thought, because you're doing 5-4 plus 5 with that thing. But at the level they're at, it's actually not that overpowered, because, you know, they're already like 8th, you know, almost 9th level, stuff like that.
So. It's great when you see another wizard, dude. I see another wizard, I magic missile the shit out of him.
Right? Because, you know, they ain't
got my gat. I pull out my gat and go, no cast for you.
Yeah, because they ain't got a lot of hit points or anything. So you're just like, blow. And there's no concentration rolls in OSE, so.
You know. It's still get interrupted, though. I just got to win initiative, and I'll gun that son of a bitch down.
Right.
Same with clerics. It's a good way to shut down any kind of spellcaster, except your at-will people, and they can just do demons and stuff.
Right. Yeah, you just freaking just keep happing them with the magic missile, and it auto hits. So, I mean, good luck, you know. It's like, but yeah. So we've been having a lot of fun, but I mean, it was never in question that we would. I mean, we're playing in the Greyhawk world. We're basically playing old school D&D. I mean, that's kind of my group's bread and butter, kind of.
That's mine too. I prefer fantasy over everything else. I'm kicking ideas around for a Red Space game, but we got a lot going on, so.
I wouldn't mind running a Traveller 2300 game, but you know, the players would have to be interested. That's the thing. And if they're not interested, then why even try to force them to be interested, you know?
Yeah.
Now, they all made characters, and they all seemed like they were not super opposed to the idea. But they also know that I will constantly ask them what kind of characters they want to play in a game. And it has nothing to do with whether or not we'll ever play the game.
Right. Just have it ready.
It's
That's what I
just
get
me
these.
being like, if we ever played this game, what kind of character would you play?
That's why I keep a bunch of these around, these folders. So if I get
Yeah.
an idea and I make characters or I make notes, I'll put it into this unless the notes start ending up looking like one of these and it ends up being a whole one of these notebooks.
Right.
So I'm always getting that shit. That way I have my handouts ready because I'm a handout freak. I love handouts. I'm only playing one table game now. That's as a player. I don't know if I could.
Handouts are amazing, man. Players love handouts.
Yeah. This means it's
Like,
important. That's my best red herring is a shitty piece of parchment with some nonsense on it. This is important because he gave us a copy of it. Yeah, it's real important to no one.
Yeah, you give them like a parchment and it's got some weird like rhyme on it, but it's like, okay.
I love red herrings, dude. They're the best because then your party starts feeding you ideas.
Right. Yeah, and you can latch on to the stuff that they're like, maybe it's this and that. And then now you know the kind of stuff that they actually want.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I know my guys. I got friends who've been playing with the same guys for like 30 years. I'm like, you haven't figured out they're only interested in power yet? You're giving them the noble choice A and the not so noble choice B, but you do not give or factor in that it's going to be D, skullduggery and douchebaggery extreme.
The majority of the players in my game are like lawful good.
Yeah, we only got 2 lawful good types.
Because they keep the chaotic neutrals in check.
Yeah.
Because of course I have a couple people that were like, I want to be chaotic neutral. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Know where it's going. Yeah, I took chaotic neutral for my wizards last time because there was like 4 people in a party of 7 who were chaotic neutral. And then after the first chaotic good guy got killed, he made a paladin. And I'm like, oh, now we got lawful goods. I wouldn't have been pure chaotic neutral. I would have been good.
I pretty much told my players back when they made their characters that no one was allowed to make a paladin. And they were like, why? And I was like, because if you make a paladin and someone else wants to make a thief, it turns into a thing, and I just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I get that. That's why I like themes when I start a game. Like if I got an idea like this, the last theme game I forced on people was like, it's a dwarven delve, and I want you guys to all be dwarves recovering the dwarven ruins for dwarves. Not be the plunderers, to be the rebuilders. And they get into it.
Cool.
And I have 1 or 2 players who just can't do that. They're just power players. They're munchkins at heart, and they're never going to change.
See, that to me is like super cool. I mean, I would probably make up a dwarf, depending on which rule set we're using. I might go with like a dwarf thief, and view my character as a like a tunnel scout. You know what I mean? Like
not a box man, but a ratter.
Yeah, like
a
I run around the under roads, looking to make sure nobody's invading or anything.
Yeah.
And
you should check out Dwardeep. That's Gillespie's mega dungeon for reclaiming his old Demoria. And it's really good. It's got all kinds of dwarven themed items in it, house rings and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I will have to check that out. I mean, I have the deluxe Burrow Maze book.
Yeah. He's got 4 mega dungeons out that are all amazing. Dwardeep is the old Demoria. Highfell is the floating wizard city, which that's my favorite. Caverns of Archaea is I don't know how to put this. The Lost City meets Caves of Chaos on steroids. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds good. Lost City and Caves of Chaos are two of my favorites.
Yeah, because the city got smashed down, right? So to get in the city, you got to go down the sides to get to the ruins, and all along the sides are where all the monsters are, the different factions of this building army. So it's the faction play again, and but on a much grander scale. And then you get down below the place, and it's hell furnaces, and it's packed with freaking fire giants.
Yeah, not fun.
Yeah, it gets rough. But the under part area, I was looking at, I was like, these are huge, wide open spaces. Like these big plazas and lava all around, of course, which it makes it very difficult to make a VTT because the maps are so damn large. If someone's running a potato of a machine, it won't load for them.
Right.
You have
I mean, to be whatever, it's like he must have been influenced by like the D series of adventures.
It's all there, dude. You can see all the combination of the 80s films and TSR 80s. There are references and Easter eggs all through the game. All through it. Let me find. I just started copied a bunch of the items into my Roll20. Let me check. Stupid hats.
I'm just finishing the base of this Bene Gesserit matron. Yeah, I asked everybody a couple days ago. I'm like, pick what you want to play, and then of course, a couple of them picked Fremen. Yeah. So then I had to respond back and be like, no Fremen. And they're like, no Fremen? Why? And I'm like, because I'm using the alternate universe.
Yeah.
And so Hungar, who wanted to be a Fremen, changed his character to House Officer. So basically like Duncan, Idaho, or Gurney Halleck.
Yeah.
Which is good. I don't know what BRC will change to. Maybe Smuggler? Smuggler would be good. Since they're a minor house associated with House Ordos on Arrakis.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Doom person, so.
Oh, well, you know.
All over.
I don't mean to bore you, but.
I read two. Is it? The first two, I think, is all I read.
I read the first one. I never read the second one, but, you know, I loved the first book, and then the movies I just thought were.
I did like the movies.
Like all of them.
No, the new one, I haven't watched the second one, the new one yet.
Yeah, there's only one bad thing about the new movies, and it's Zendaya.
Yes. Why are they pushing this troll? Bring back the molester in Hollywood so he can screen out these trolls.
Something. Because it's like she is a horrible actor.
Most of them
I kind of feel the same way, not really, but kind of, about Pedro Pascal. I'm like, why is he in every movie?
He's being pushed.
But the difference is Pedro Pascal can actually act.
He can when he wants to.
When he's in a good role, he can freaking kill it. But Zendaya spins both of the Dune movies, and they're long movies. Each of them's like 2 hours long, right? Looking like she really just has to take a poop.
Yeah.
That's and they changed her character.
Face. She got resting poop face.
Yeah. And they changed her character, not just, you know, her race and all, because Chani had red hair.
Yeah.
So you know the Hollywood rule: if they have red hair, they have to
be black
with a black person.
Yeah. They're trying to do that to Ireland. Actually, I call it the return of the Fomori, but you know.
then the so yeah, all she does in both movies for hours is just stand around looking like she's really, really constipated. And they changed her character because even though she's supposed to be the love interest of Paul Atreides, she acts like she doesn't believe in him. That like he's not.
Like a modern woman doesn't believe in her man, doesn't support him. All she does is tear him down and doubt him. Yeah.
She's super doubtful of Paul. She doesn't believe he is what everyone says he is, and it's just so annoying because it's like in the book, Chani was like his super supporter. You know what I mean?
Right. Every great man has a greater woman behind him, but not in Hollywood. You got this nag.
Right. And it's just terrible. She's just horrible.
Yeah, I was trying to give that Ironheart movie a shot, but then I'm watching all these clips and I watched a brief synopsis, and I'm going, this is not a hero story or hero origin. This is a origin story for a villain. It's a villain's origin arc, man.
The only reason I know anything about it at all is I was watching Clownfish TV, and they mentioned like how bad it is.
Oh,
like
I've only seen clips. I was like, I can't make myself watch this. I don't think. But what I've seen doesn't look like a hero's origin story. It looks like a villain arc, like someone's going to become a villain. Oh, the world's going to know me,
It's like, really?
I think I'd actually like it more if they made her a villain. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know why there's this weird need to. It's like someone in Hollywood woke up and said, here's the deal. Everything that was ever created by Stanley or what's his name? Starts with a K, right?
Kubrick.
We're just going to destroy the shit out of it.
Yeah. Oh, everything. It's post-modernist mindset. The Jews who founded Hollywood were replaced by Bolsheviks. I mean, that's what they do.
And that's what they have been doing. It's like, Superman. I don't know. I could bitch about, but whatever.
What they've done to Superman looks like it's going to be pretty like a trash heap too.
Well, because I don't think these people, and Bear and I talked about this for a long time.
Well, they don't believe in heroes.
Exactly. They don't actually believe in the idea of a perfectly selfless hero.
Yeah.
That's willing to, because I guess they just can't conceive of it because they're bad people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, nothing born of a bad seed or of bad intentions can stand the light or understand what makes people good or selfless or sacrifice. Yeah. They understand making other people sacrifice for them, but as a personal sacrifice for others, what are you, crazy?
Right. Whereas Bear and I were talking about how in our respective D&D games, we've kind of gotten away from the edgelord bullshit, and we've turned the game into like heroic games,
My guys always disappoint me when it comes to heroics, but I got a Gonzo game where they're just delvers. The Barrel Maze guys are all about rooting out the evil and getting rid of the undead. So they're on a heroic path. And my Highfell guys are kind of just plunderers and goofing. I think that's what a lot of it is.
There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm talking about though is the trend of you go to the Temple of St. Cuthbert and find out the priest is evil.
Right. That's been around
And
for a
I'm
while.
just over that shit. It's like, no, you go to the Church of St. Cuthbert and the priest is good because he's the priest of St. Cuthbert.
Yeah, I think
And
Grimdark's done, dude.
all of
People
this-
want a light.
All of this weird deconstructing everything bullshit, I'm just like over it.
Well, they build nothing. They can take things apart, but they don't know how to put it back together to make anything meaningful. For
Right. So I'm not doing any of that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm just gonna have it where things are like my group pretty much knows who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. It's like everybody kind of is pretty sure about that. You know what I mean? Because you know, when you see a guy wearing a big blue flaming eyed bat winged helmet, you kind of know that guy's not the good guy, you know?
And he's wearing piecemeal armor, so you know he's nuts.
Yeah, and he's
And
wearing,
the green face shield.
he's wearing like some kind of weird armor. Like, what is he trying to be a gladiator or something? Like, what's he doing?
Because I like it when you spank me.
You know, it's like it's only armored on one side. And he's got the shield with the demon face on it.
The demon face shield.
So, I mean, he's basically letting everybody in the neighborhood know what he's about. And that's kind of what I like, you know? I mean, this whole idea that started with modern gamers where you have like the you think all orcs are evil, that's racist. I'm pretty much just over it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm like, no, orcs are evil. I don't care what you think about me and my game. But it specifically says in my monster manual that they're evil. So that's what I'm going to go with, you know.
Seeds of that.
And you do your thing, man.
Wow.
You know, do your thing. Yeah, you're right. It's the WoW thing. And it's just like, I'm just not doing it. You know?
Okay.
Become
They're mindless mooks to be slaughtered as part of the story. That's it.
right.
They're not stand-in for people. Although I'll make those jokes because it seems to piss people off, and I think it's funny. So, okay, we'll do it. First thought, but okay, sure. Since it makes you cringe, why not?
You know, there's a guy online that sells a whole STL line, enough to make an army of hundreds of African orcs.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yeah, they're like orcs, but they're equipped like Zulu warriors and shit like that.
I forget the name of the company, but it used back in the day when I did 40K. They had the SS helmets and the Nazi helmets for the orcs, and then they had the Civil War heads. They could change the heads around.
Yeah,
they had like really beat up, dead Space Marines I could put on the side of my orcs. So I had like their severed heads of a Space Marine and a battered shoulder piece, you know?
Yeah, that was Chromac.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was it.
And
their squids, their little goblin squids and bomb squids were the most hilarious.
yeah, I think Wizards of the Coast tried to put an end to them, but it didn't work because they're Polish and because you can't copyright orcs.
Right.
So
these aren't your orcs. These are orcs with different types of hats on. They're not made for 40K.
yeah, I remember you could have them with like Confederate forage caps. You could have them with like Steel helmets. You could have them like all kinds. They had like
Doughboy helmets look better though. I thought the Doughboy helmets looked amazing.
Right, but I'll tell you what. The original second edition box set Orc Goth boys were all wearing Steel helmets.
Yeah,
and that was Games Workshop.
Yeah,
and they had a metal orc you could buy in a blister pack that literally had a swastika on the side of his Stell helm.
Yeah.
So they've completely like
They missed the opportunity to go full crazy and have endless opportunities. I made a McDonald's themed orc army one time, dude.
mm-hmm.
So I made the war boss had a red fro, it was all decked out. I had little Polly Pocket fries and burgers put on his belt like ammo.
Right.
You're not digging through the Polly Pocket stuff. I need the French fries.
See, that was the best thing with that company back then, is they actually wanted people to do like crazy shit.
Yeah, I think DIY should be encouraged across the hobby, and I think that's why the rules, the raw guys don't quite get it, and a lot of the younger guys are coming into the hobby are ingrained with this appeal to authority beat into them at such an early age that they don't understand going outside that line, and just being told what to think and do for so long has stifled their creativity.
Yep, I would agree with that. Because back in the day, man, we just got there and played the game for fun.
Yep. Beer and pretzels is still kind of run my games, to be honest. And even when they find out the big bad underlying story, I put some humor into it. I mean, I want to have some laughs in intense situations. That's what I want. And make it creepy. That's a specialty. Make it creepy. Well, I can't wait till they get lower in Stonehill so I can have the barbed wire wrapped fetuses come after them. You know.
Oh my God. But yep, that's just the old man syndrome, sitting around talking about. But it was better back then. That's kind of the problem.
That's what I explained. The '80s were a whole better time period.
You know, some people can be like, you're just being
nostalgic.
Your typical grognard, and it's like, I would consider that option, except I have considered that as an option, and after a long period of consideration, I have came to the conclusion that no, it was better.
Yeah, I explain to people, it was better. You will never be as free as we were, and because you've been tied to social media the second you got off the teat, you will never know what it's like to not give a fuck what other people think about you. Ever.
Well, I'm just talking about the gaming part too, the whole...
I think it goes back to a whole mentality and culture.
We just did whatever, man. Yeah. And if you needed to like substitute something for something else or whatever, it wasn't a big deal,
Yeah. We also didn't have the endless options of what you can find on the internet. We had to make do or make it.
Yeah, I remember playing a few games where we hid books under sheets to represent mountains and shit.
Yeah, the most common representation of a goblin or orc in my game when I was growing up was a penny.
Yeah. For the longest time, when I was really, really poor, the players would have pennies with their initials on it, and then I'd have a stack of pennies with numbers.
There you go.
And we would literally put them down on like paper. Mm-hmm. I would draw out like the size of a room on a piece of paper, and we would just keep track of who was moving where and doing what. I mean, it was
because when did they come out with the dry erase boards and stuff? We had some. I took a dry erase board, and that became our table. It was no grids or nothing. It was this actual dry erase board they were throwing out because the bottom had popped off.
Yeah, you could have got those. A person could have got those. I never did because I never thought of it. Now, people who were adults and had money, a lot of those guys were playing with the gridded vinyl dry erase mats, but those things cost like $60, and
yeah,
I didn't have that kind of dough. I was living with 3 roommates in the hood, So that shit wasn't for real. I'm not even joking. So that shit wasn't happening. You know, we were more worried about keeping enough ramen in the freaking thing so that we wouldn't starve to death.
Yeah, I worked at a restaurant off and on for so long. It was always food wasn't a problem. This wasn't good food.
Right. Yeah, those were rough times. Hungar was working as a taxi driver, and there were days when he would work 20 hours because I guess as a taxi driver, you can.
Yeah, you make it in the seat. They
So,
DOT'd it after a certain amount of time, but if you're labeled as an LLC individual owner operator, there's no hours or DOT considerations. You're a corporation. You're an entity. So you're not a person anymore. You're an entity. You're a corporate entity. So you can do whatever the fuck you want.
yeah, he was working for this company, and every night when he went in and got the car, um, he owed them money.
Yeah,
So, you know, he had to work until he at least made enough money to pay for the car. You know?
carbon.
And then anything after that would be for him. But I mean, it was rough. You know, I was working at a concrete plant making concrete pipe for like storm drains and shit. And our buddy was working at a haunted house. Well, our buddy was working like 9 jobs.
Yeah,
That guy was like a Jamaican. He had all the jobs. And then
yeah,
every Wednesday night, we'd all get together at the place and play D&D. And yeah, it was good times, man.
Before the gig economy, it was the random call. I need someone to do X. Can you do it? The original side hustle.
Well, that's actually how I met my wife. Not how I met her, but how I got her. Because she called out of the blue one time, was like, "Hey, do you still own a truck?" And I was like, "Sure do."
Yeah.
And at the time, I had that big old Chevy full-size pickup truck with the V8 in it and everything. And she's like, "Well, I need some help moving. Do you think you could help me move?" And I was like, "Sure, I can. Let me call some of my boys and see if they want help." And of course, they did. So went over, started helping her move, threw my game down. Now we've been married 20 plus years. We've been together.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you know, all because I had that yellow Chevy truck, which my brother blew up.
Yeah. Should have kept the bones and put a new engine in it.
100% should have.
Yeah.
Should have.
I used to hate that my uncles had this graveyard of cars, and now I'm like, that was the smartest thing ever. Should have never got rid of anything. Just put them on blocks and got around to it.
I think it was stupid because
Is it an old square body? Because I would kill for a good square body nowadays, and I can't stand the way these new trucks look.
yeah, it was a square body Chevy full size pickup truck. It had roll bars.
All
It
right.
had a big bumper on the front, like almost like a bull bumper, really. I mean, it was your typical kind of redneck truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, it's like I didn't know how inexpensive a Chevy 350 big block engine actually could
Yeah.
be. And, you know, I knew a mechanic. My uncle is a certified mechanic. So, I mean, he had access to the winches and everything. So, if I'd paid him some money, I could have bought a brand new out of the crate, you know, 350 big block and just dropped in that thing and been good to
I
go.
think Year Zero tranny on those old trannies on those lasted forever if you took care of them. So
Yeah. Then I ended up with hey, Satya, I ended up with a 1971 Volkswagen bus.
no AC.
No, nothing.
Oh yeah, those sucked. My uncle had one.
The AC was you roll the window
Roll
down
the window down, baby. Get ready to sweat.
because, and it's Florida, so and you're puttering around with that 4-cylinder engine. And of course, I replaced the jugs on it from 40 mil to 60 mil. So I think it had like 64 horsepower.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
those things were never.
and that was considered to be pretty good for those things.
Yeah. My wife dreams of getting one of the safari wagons, and I'm like, well, now they're just not affordable. The cheapest I've seen one's $8,000. I thought that was a steal, and it needed minor work. But then you got to track down those damn parts.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
You know, a guy who gets excited at the very thought of working on one, so I'm pretty sure he wouldn't charge me a lot to fix one up because he just gets excited about the whole thing.
I can tell you right now, working on a 1600cc air-cooled engine in the older Volkswagens, I did it. I don't know shit. I read a book and then rebuilt that engine. I even replaced the freaking drive shaft.
I was the same way with this old car I had 351 Windsor in it, and I knew that engine in and out. I could stand there and listen to it and know what was wrong with it. But
Yeah,
I worked on it a lot. It was a good engine.
I heard the 1700 flat tops were a little more difficult, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I liked those Volkswagens quite a bit.
The only Volkswagen I really liked was the things. I just loved the way they looked.
The Kugelwagen?
The Kugelwagen, yeah, the thing, Volkswagen thing.
Not exactly like a Kugelwagen, but they look enough
They
like
looked like it, but they didn't have the guts. They didn't have the all-terrain ability of the Kugelwagons.
Right.
They're cool looking.
And there was a guy in the neighborhood where I lived. I kid you not. He had a Kugelwagen, and that thing was painted up, sand colored, and it had the frickin' Africa Corps symbols on it and the whole 9 yards. And every now and then you'd see him just cruising down the street. So, of course, I'm saying it's a Kugel or a thing. It could have actually been I don't know.
The wagons were bigger, and you can probably tell by the tires.
But yeah, you would see him cruising down the street all the time in his freaking desert camo Kugelwagen looking thing with all the logos on it and the numbers and everything. I mean, in Europe, he'd have went to prison. No. There's a rule in Europe. I found this out because I'm a modeler, where if you model, say you build a World War II tank,
right,
like a Panzer III, right? And you're building it to look like a really realistic Eastern Front tank. Well, one thing that a lot of tankers on the Eastern Front did is they would take their flags and they would lay them across the back of the tank. Right? They take like a Yahtzee flag and lay it across the back of the tank and tie it down so that Stukas flying over, when they look down, they'd see the flag.
Right.
And know this is not target, right? You can make an actual tank and do that. It's not illegal because it's considered a historical representation.
Right.
But if you just had the flag alone, you're going to jail.
They're all nuts, dude.
Yeah.
They're all nuts over there.
It's pretty crazy. So, I mean, there's a couple of times, like when I used to play Bolt Action, I painted up a T-34, like in Finnish colors, or no, KV-1. So it was white mostly, and it had the blue crooked cross on the side because that is the symbol for Finland at the time. Their royal house. That was what was on the coat of arms. and apparently, they captured some Russian tanks. So,
Yeah.
so that was a thing. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. But
Yeah, I was trying to build an Italian army for the bolt action, but they quit playing and they switched over to a different game, Team Yankee. And I'm like, guys, change games like people change clothes. And the level to entry for some of these is a side thing for me. I don't like throwing money into a game I'm not going to play. I won't do
right,
it. So I was like, dang, damn it. Because if I'm going to do World War II models, I'm going to do actual decent World War II models, not that scale, not gaming scale, but display scale.
well, Bolt Action and another company named Rubicon make some incredibly excellent 156 scale World War II vehicles.
Yeah.
And Rubicon is really good because they make like Opel trucks and like all of the non-tank things that you might want, you know. Like I had an Opel that had a quad flak Varang or whatever mounted on the back of it, and so yeah, that was cool. But the problem with what you're talking about is you spend so much money
Yeah.
to try to get a starting force going, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're going to play an entirely different game that plays at an entirely different scale.
Yeah.
And
And
not
with
only
higher
that, instead of World War
country.
II, it's World War III. But what if?
Yeah. And Team Yankee was more expensive to get into than Bolt Action.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
no.
I mean, I was so surprised at one point when I was looking at how much um, like a Panzer IV cost from Rubicon, and then comparing the cost of the Panzer IV in Flames of War, and it was like, uh, that's too much for 15 millimeter resin cast figures. Get the f out of here. Well, now they're
What's
plastic.
your what's your preferred World War II era? Interwar or late war or
Mid war,
mid?
mid war. And my favorite time frame, the one that me and my brother played the most, was Eastern Front.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hungar had a incredibly vicious Soviet army. I mean, it was he could on a 4 foot by 6 foot table, he could put infantry from one end of the table to the other.
Yeah,
And
you
he
got,
would
you got to use the proper German buzzsaw techniques. Lots of light machine guns, like lots of them.
yeah, and he would interlock them so that if you tried to charge one company, both companies charged back. I mean, that was back in the first Flame of War, though, where I mean they fixed some stuff, but I always played Panzer Grenadiers, and they always sucked.
Yeah.
Because everything to build a Panzer Grenadier army was so expensive.
Right. Go regular Vermont, and load it up with as many machine guns you can get into them.
Yep.
Every machine gun option, take it. You got embrace. You got to embrace the German buzzsaw. You got to embrace it. You got just overlapping automatic fire all the time.
What I ended up, I tell you what, I went to a tourney once, and the first person I played was playing a Finnish army, and I decided to play Hungar's Soviet army, and the guy quit the game at the end of turn one.
Oh, really?
Well, because I laid the Finns were considered a super elite army. Their army was very small.
Right.
So I laid all of my conscript infantry out. I had a KV-1 on one flank. And behind the infantry, I had the Red God of War, which was the Soviet artillery, whatever.
Yeah.
And when you fired it, you actually put down 2 templates.
Yeah.
I could cover his whole army with 2 templates.
Right.
So, the first round, I had all my army. I rolled to get them all to dig in. Some did, some didn't. And then I fired the Red God of War at what I could see, and he started taking shit off the table. And then he made a move, and he didn't kill anything. And then he just picked the shit up and said, "You know what? Nah." And I was like, I completely
I'm done.
understood, you know? I mean, I completely understood, because that was like the
Yeah.
worst matchup that guy could have pulled, you know?
Right. So the best counter for yours would be the German buzzsaws or a heavy weapons U.S.
Airborne
with lots of
with a
mortars.
shit ton of freaking artillery and mortars and air support. You know, something where you could call in an airstrike directly into my artillery. That might be the thing, but I never ran into it. I did have
Or
I
good
did
strength.
have a what was the truck? The Zis. I did have a truck with an anti-aircraft gun on the back of it attached to the artillery. So I
Yeah.
did have like a 2 in 6 chance of running enemy aircraft off. You know how you would roll,
Yeah.
and if you rolled, they would go away for a round, but they'd come back maybe.
Right. You could delay it. Yeah. You couldn't stop it, but you could delay it.
So, I mean, but no, you're right. If I'd went against like a U.S. airborne army that just had a shit ton of air support and stuff like that, they probably would.
Oh, 3 mortar crews. Just need 3 mortars, buddy.
Plus, I mean, the Sherman tank was just a really good tank. So, but in real life, it was the best tank of World War II.
Just because they had more of them. Not till the Firefly, I'd say.
The Firefly is just a Sherman tank
Um,
with 17-pounder on it.
Right. With the better gun. Early, the smaller gun early on was not effective enough. They had to rely on numbers, which was an attrition warfare. But
Which
pound for
would be
pound,
win, though.
it wasn't as good. Yeah. The highest kill rate for the Germans at the end was never a Panzer or a Panther. It was a fucking Stug. Stug 3 had the most kills of any German vehicle.
So I mean, as a not a tanker, but a guy that was in a mech unit, let me tell you, something like that. I mean, they're literally like 4 feet tall. You can hide it.
Yeah,
behind
it was easy to hide with great ambush tactics, and it could be used as
You
artillery.
can hide it behind anything, and it's equipped with that high velocity 7.5 centimeter gun that can penetrate any Allied armor. So most of the time, when an Allied tank got took out by a Stug, it never even saw it, because
Right. One platoon would go up in flame, and that thing would just fade. Usually there was 2 of them, so or an 88 with it, and an 88 just shredding something else up.
Yeah, that was the typical Stug tactic. It's like, oh, here's some Allied tanks. Pick one, blast it, throw this thing in reverse, move to our next position. If they charge up there, when they charge up to where we were, we're going to get one. And
Right, and if you see it going, that means there's one hidden, waiting for you to react and take another. Or a couple anti-tank guns with infantry. Because if you saw a Stug, that also means there was infantry around.
Usually that was the thing. The Stug and the Stu, the STUH, and that was the one that was equipped with the 7.5 howitzer. So anytime you saw those guys, you knew there was infantry somewhere, because the whole point of their existence was to support grenadiers. So, you know.
Here comes the Panzerfaust. You
don't want to run into those ruined buildings willy-nilly if you think there could be some guys hanging out in there with Panzerfaust, because that's not a good time.
Germans are fun to play, but they got cool toys. The German stuff looks cool. It's fun to play. I like the Italians because they're underrated, and it's harder to win. And I like
the challenge.
I like winning. I like the challenge.
I dig it.
Plus, I think it's funny.
I totally get it. And as a matter of fact, I can't see it. And even if I tilt my computer, if you look really close on the top shelf above the books, you see that line of tannish things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a company of Caro Amato 41s.
Yeah, the AC, the arm cars,
They're
right?
they're the Rubicon Fiat Caro Amato M41 Italian tank.
Tank. Yeah, that was equivalent to an actual early model Sherman.
They
actually.
suck, but I mean, you can take a Sherman out if you roll just a bunch of sixes, and it will rarely ever happen. But on the occasion that it does happen, it's like the best.
Yeah, you got to use their Italian version with the
I
seven
have
with the
one
with
over
the
there.
with the stud.
The
Yeah.
Simavante 74.
So yeah, that's it. And those are really nice.
It's
But usually you got to use a lot of infantry. And the trick to winning with Italians is you don't move too much.
the Simavante is basically just the Italian stew. That's all it is. And I also have the Lance or Lancel, whatever. It's an Italian truck with a 90 millimeter anti-tank gun mounted on the back.
Yes.
And then, of course, I've got all my Bersaglieri, and I mean, I've only ever won one game.
So you get out of the stupid hats. They got slightly better morale, but they're decent. And that truck is dirt cheap.
Exactly. So you're just like, you dig in and you hang out and try to pound them away with your artillery and whatever. But they're not great. But there was one time I played against a friend. He was playing American Airborne, and I was playing Italian Airborne. The para whatever, the guys that wore the blue pants, and they're all equipped with Beretta submachine guns and shit like that. He had a Sherman.
Yeah.
I had a Caro Amato. I had a sniper and a mortar team, and I whipped his ass. I took a Sherman out like turn one. I mean, the probability was like winning the lottery, but it did happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're telling me there's a chance.
Right.
Everything's situational in a combat zone,
What you're saying is there is a chance. And that's what happened. I rolled the hit, then I rolled a 6, and then I rolled a 6, and his tank was burning. And we were both sitting there kind of gobsmacked for a minute, like, did that just happen? And then you wouldn't think it, but the Italian paratroopers were actually badasses in bolt action.
Well, yeah. And the mountain troops should have been much better than what they gave them credit for in the system. But you know, Italians get a lot of a lip for what they for their actions in World War II. But you forget, in North Africa, they were abandoned by all their heavy support. The Germans fucking left them, and they managed to stall the entire advance. So they did fight bravely. They fought well, but they had a civil war in the middle of the war.
They had a civil war in the middle of the war. What's his name? Scorsese or whatever had to fly down and rescue Mussolini.
Yeah. So yeah, it is what it is. It is fun to play though.
I might go make myself something to eat.
Yeah, I use my jokey Italian accent and play my wops. That's what I do.
Yeah, I too, sir, sometimes like playing underdog armies.
So I got a little printout I would put on the table, on my side of the table to distract. It's funny. Check this out. So I'd sit down, start setting my forces up, and then set El Duce at the end of the table.
No. Friggin' my brother, when we would play against each other, he would always, like, I'd be like, okay, it's your turn. And as soon as I'd say that, he'd have his phone under the table, and all of a sudden you'd hear the Soviet national anthem.
Yeah, you got to.
Like, you're such a dick.
You gotta do it. Dun, 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 dun. You might be more that Soviet wave. You got to update it. Play some of that Soviet wave for your game.
Well, play like the Great Patriotic War, the one that dun dun.
Well, they synced it up, dude. There's some synth-based versions of that are hilarious.
Dun,
Like,
dun,
yes.
dun, dun, dun. Hey, go on Instagram and you can see like literally dozens of Japanese girls singing
I don't do.
Erica.
I don't do Instagram.
Yeah, I don't either, but my brother showed me. There are like literally just shit tons of Japanese girls singing Erica. It's
That's
like
funny.
a thing, you know.
Dude, the Asians
Sometimes
crack
they
me
sing
up.
it in Japanese and sometimes they sing it in English, and the whole time you're just like, what are they doing? I mean, what is the plan behind this? I don't know.
They're just funny. I love it. I also love the Japanese rockabilly scene because it's pretty awesome, and it's only matched by their psychobilly scene. But yeah, it's hilarious. They find these. They have all these little subcultures for their entertainment. Their little personal fandoms, and they just go over the top. I'm still dying to go to Cambodia, eat a Hitler chicken. I just got to do that one day.
So I'm going to take off. It's been about 2 hours.
Yeah, I gotta go do something out in the county myself.
I will check you out next time I check you out, bro.
All right, take care.
You too, man. Be safe up there. And everyone else who popped in and whatever, I hope you had a good time. And yeah, there are bull sharks in the Everglades. So not just alligators and crocodiles and pythons. Apparently, bull sharks are an issue too. So, God, nobody's escaping that place. And we'll end it with that.